Okay. Oh yeah, I was telling you about the when we used to go sledding, and we would run in, and they had these long corridor, long radiators in the corridor, and we used to take our gloves off and our socks and put them on the radiator, and you could smell. I'll never forget that smell. It smelled like moldy, almost, wool drying. It was all wool because it was before synthetic fibers, so everything was wool, and they shrunk. And then by the time they dried, they would be small for you, and you have to pull them on to get out again. But oh, that was fun. It was really fun to do that. And the whole day we would do it when it snowed. Sometimes they would let us out of school too if it snowed real bad, real hard. And
And what would
so
you wear on your feet?
we had the galoshes, but we didn't have um, pants like the kids have today. We didn't have anything like that. I was trying to remember what we did do. We had lisle stockings. They were called lisle, and they were made out of cotton, and they were heavy. And you wore those until you were like in eighth grade. Then you got, oh no, no, yeah, the lisle were that. And what did we get? Then we got another grade of stocking. It was made out of cotton, but it was thinner. Of course, it wasn't silk or nylon. This was before nylons came. Nylons weren't introduced till during the war. And I was out of Gonzaga by then. Or no, I wasn't. I got out of Gonzaga when we went into the war, when America, that was in 1944, when we first went into the war, and then we were out of it in 1945. So we were a year in the war. But of course, it was going on in Europe, and we heard about it a lot, talked about it, heard it on the radio, read about it in the paper. So, but the stockings, I'm trying to remember what we wore when we went sledding, and I can't. Maybe your mother will remember. I don't remember. Mary couldn't either, because I asked her the other day. We must have worn something on our legs besides the lisle stockings, which were heavy, but I don't think they were heavy enough to protect our legs, and yet we couldn't have anything else. I don't remember. Of course, our coats were long too. In those days, you didn't have jackets. Your coats came down to below your knee, and they were heavy wool. And then we had the Arctics, and they came in different lengths. Some of them went up to almost to your knee. I guess that was it. They were up to your knee, and then the coat came down over the Arctic. That's what it was. That's what we had. And my father called them Arctic, and other people called them galoshes. And we used to get mad at him, Daddy. You know how kids do, try to say that old-fashioned thing. But he never stopped saying it. He always said it. You have your Arctics. Wear Patsy's. Mm.
What other sports did you get to do?
Oh, we had roller skating too. That was another big thing. We all had roller skates, and we had big hills to go down. That was great fun, especially in the fall and the spring. We could go down and not stop all the way this big expanse, and not stop. It was great. Of course, you fell a lot, and you got to the bottom. Sometimes my father would be coming in the gate, and we'd just roll right down to the gate to meet him. And he came on Sundays. Oh, that was another thing. He came every Sunday. He brought the whole paper, the Inquirer. And they had this laundry room that was on the old building. And on the outside of it, they had what they called drying tables. And this was like a big room on the outside of where the utensils were for the laundry. And we'd sit in there, and the sun used to come in. It was a really nice place. It was warm. And we'd all sit up on the table and read the paper, the four of us and him. And we'd all read the paper and read the comics and and it was fun. And he used to bring us goodies, like candy or whatever. And then we'd sit there for, I don't know how long, hours until he left. And that was fun. But then as he got older, and as we were there longer, he started to drink more. I don't know what caused it or why, but he used to come on Sundays and he'd be drunk. Oh, and we hated that. Especially, Mary used to be afraid, but I used to hate it because I used to get mad at him. We didn't want him to come then, or we didn't want to go down to see him. And then you'd be ashamed of yourself for feeling that way, you know? Poor guy. Well, anyway, but he was always never nasty. He was always a funny, you know, funny or else crying. He cried a lot. Mama, you know, he missed his mother, his wife. And then I hated that worse than anything. But, and he'd stagger. He'd come up the stairs. It's funny now, or it wasn't then. I used to be so mad at him. And he'd stagger from one side to the other. And then this one nun, that's Stremia, she always did this. She'd say something about us, like people would visit. Say they had people come in to look at the place, maybe teachers or different people once in a while, or a priest, a visiting priest from another country maybe. And she always had to say, now these are the Mannings, and the four of them are all together, and blah, 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 and their father comes, and their father works here, blah, blah, blah. But he drinks, you know, he'll take a drink. He's Irish. And you feel like, I used to hate her. I used to feel like just killing her. But she always had to put that in, and she would be so nice to him. She was that way. She'd be so nice to the face, and then she'd say things. Or if, like, a couple kids, one kid, her this is a funny thing. One kid's mother ran off with another kid's father. They were both, I think the mother was not married at the time. She was divorced or separated or something. And they each had a child at Gonzaga. This was when I was in high school, like when we were older. And the other kid had a father and a mother. Now, why they were there, why she was there, I don't know. But he was a real good-looking man. He was blonde, German-looking. And they left. They had an affair, of course, and then they left. And the kids, I don't remember, I guess the kids were still at Gonzaga, and she used to say things about them in front of them. You know, her mother ran off with it, and she'd tell the story, and the kids were there. She was a sicko.
Would you ever say anything to her about it?
Oh, the kids used to mutter, but you were afraid of her. You know, she'd hit you. She did hit. She was the only one that hit. Okay, though Kay said she got hit by other nuns. I didn't. She hit me that time with Patsy when I ran at her. She hit me with because I ran at her when she had the tail thing. And another time she hit me, I forget what that was. Oh, I never told this story. One time, I was in high school this time, and we weren't allowed out at night. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody at high school that I was friendly with, her parent died or some relative died, and they were having this big wake, and it was kind of like a big party, and I wanted to go, and I asked permission, and they wouldn't let me. So Jenny Nolak and I, that's another girl, I don't know why I got her, but she and I snuck out, and we went anyway. And when we came back, everything was locked up. So we had to, I don't know how we did it, but there was what we called an areaway. It was this, a big, in the basement, there were these old windows, like casement windows, but they were underneath the ground, like in a basement level. And on top of that, there was this moat, like, and a fence around it, a wrought iron fence. And on that led up to the wall of the cafeteria. We called it, what did we call it? Whatever, we called it whatever we ate. Refectory, we called it. And I don't know how I did it, but I climbed up on this gate on the wall, the wrought iron fence, and I somehow got myself over against the wall, which were made of big stones that were sticking out. And I climbed up on the stones to the window, and I pushed the window open. How I did it, I have no idea. So I wonder if I had fallen down into that moat, I would have gotten killed. It was all cement. And then I got in there. I somehow got in, and then I got a chair. I had a scarf on because it was wintertime, and I wrapped the scarf around the chair, and I put the chair out so Jenny could climb up on the chair. She climbed in the window, and the nun, Stremia it was looking for us. I saw a flashlight. And so we hid. They had this big piano, and it was like catty corner, and we hid in back of the piano. And finally she went to bed. And then we snuck up when we got to bed, and I forget now, the next day I know I got in trouble, but I don't think they could prove where I was or what I did or anything. So those are the kinds, that was funny. Well, I don't know why I did that or how, or
Well, just to go back to something that you said earlier about what your father used to say to you, taking care of my
Patsy?
mother. Yeah.
The bike. He called her the bike. Another thing he used to say a lot of Gaelic words. And he used to say, we'd be all talking at once, be the hust, be the hust. That means be quiet, be shut up, you know, and then Gaelic. I remember that. I forget on Pugamahone, he used to say that too. That means kiss my backside. And he used to say when he was drinking, he'd say more Gaelic than when he was sober. But he said, he knew, you know, could speak Gaelic. And
the bag means
baby, yeah. And he was so concerned always, we all were. And she was the cutest little thing, Patsy. Oh, she was adorable. She's like, I don't know who today. She had curly hair, fine, like Liz's was when she was little too. I don't know, yours was straight. Well, anyway, she was so cute and she was so full of life. And he was always afraid for her because she was daredevil, you know, she didn't have any fear. And so he was always worried about her, the bike. Oh, she was a cutie. But then she was scared too at night. She'd come into my bed when I was there, and then I guess she remembers more going into Mary's bed at night because I went into the upper dormitory when I got older, like when I got in, I think it was in 6th grade, you got up to that other dormitory. So then Mary was there. And, but she was a fighter too, Patsy. She would fight for her rights. Well, and Mary was always a scary cat. I was just I was just more in a dream world because mostly I read. And so I didn't participate in a lot of stuff that was going on because I was just not aware of it. I was in a kind of a dream world, I guess.
Did you have friends there?
Yeah, we had, but we weren't, was funny, we weren't close friends. I didn't get the closest girlfriends I had were from Cuba. We had they were exchange students, and that was when I was in high school. One was in 8th grade, Marietta, and then another girl, Graciela. And they were both here for 2 years, and I got friendly with both of them. Why, I don't know. And I didn't get friendly. One other girl I was friendly with. But most of the time I was more by myself or with my sisters. You know, I think I had them, so I didn't bother much with making friends with the other kids. Although Patsy and Mary, not Mary so much, Kay did, I think. Oh no, Kay was a loner too. Mary and Patsy, I guess, had other, you know, friends that were at Gonzaga.
Did the same nuns who taught you live in the home when you were kids?
Oh yeah, sure. They taught us and they did the laundry and they did the cooking, and there was one nun who did the cooking, Sister Angela, and she was a big fat, she was sweet, she was nice. She was strict, but she was good and fair. And she liked the little kids. She liked Patsy and she liked Sweetie, and she really gave them treats. And you got turns to work in the kitchen, and you had to peel potatoes, like imagine for 90, 100 people, because the nuns too, big pots. And they had a dishwasher, but all the dishes had to be rinsed first. And when we had this, outside the refectory, they had these big sinks where we did the kids' our dishes, but the nuns' dishes and the cooking dishes were done in the kitchen. So when you were assigned to the kitchen, you had to do them. But when you were assigned to the refectory, you had to wash all the kids' dishes, all the silverware, and we had to sweep the floor. This great big room, as big as this whole area, bigger than this area, 2 of these houses maybe. It was big because 100 people could sit in it. And that, I hated that. Ugh. I'd rather have the beds than the refectory. But we got what we got. They changed the, I think it was about every month or every 6 weeks we got our duties changed. And they called it out like on a Saturday morning. Nelly Manning kitchen, Nelly Manning refectory. Ugh. And then you'd hear all the kids complain, oh, Christ, I got that again. I didn't say Christ. We'd say, oh my God, I got that again? That's not fair. Blah, blah, blah. You'd hear all the kids yelling. The nuns just would read it off and walk away, and you fought it out among yourself. You weren't allowed to change it, though. So, but when I got older, I got to chapel a lot, so I liked that. And we used to eat the communion things, Dolly and I. We used to eat the wafers. They had this big closet, and they kept them in a box. And we used to eat them, Dolly and I. We used to drink the wine. She made me drink the wine. I didn't like it. Ugh. Tasted awful, but she loved it. This Dolly McCormick. Now, there's a friend I had at Gonzaga. She was a bad girl, but she was not a bad girl, but in those days it was considered a bad girl because she ran away, and she used to go out with boys and things like that. She was a little beau, but she wasn't really a bad girl. She was a funny girl, just a devil. And she liked to drink the wine. I hated it, but she used to say, come on now. She's bigger than me, so I'd do it. And we did eat the bread, the wine, the communions.
When your duty was the chapel, what were your duties?
Well, we had to clean the altar, dry it, wash it, wash the wood. It was white wood. And we had to take the altar cloth off and wash it. And I guess the nuns ironed it. Oh, another thing I have to tell you about was doing the nuns' coronets and their collars. They had collars that had a piece like this around the neck, and they pinned it here. And then it was a piece like this, but it was so stiff washed that it was like plastic or cardboard. It was that thickness. We used to wash them and iron them. We washed them, but they had iron or tin, maybe aluminum, I guess it was, forms that you put them on, and the starch that was like glue. And you put the piece of material, they were linen, on the form, and then you put this glue on top of it and let it sit out in the sun. Of course, if it wasn't sun, you had a dryer room. And these coronets were just one long piece of strip of linen. And then the nuns used to make it up into the birds, like the birds. And then they wore little white caps underneath because they had no hair. Their hair was cut off. The nuns were bald. And another thing, we used to want to see the nuns when they were in bed, so we would try to climb up and look over. A couple of times we saw Starita. We used to climb up on the edge of our bed and see if we could sneak in and look over. And they would take it off at night. She was asleep, and we saw her a couple of times, Starita. We didn't see any of the others. And then another one thing that happened, Sturmia used to have this one corner. She was up in the upper part where the bigger kids were. And she's always saying, oh, I didn't sleep last night. And we heard her snoring all night. We'd say things to her, so on her. And now when I think of it, I wonder she never said anything, because we used to say things under our breath, and she must have heard us. When I think of it now, or to each other, like that. Oh, anyway. So that's another thing I remember about making those coronets, and that was when we worked in the laundry. We get times working in the laundry too. I liked that, though. That was fun. It was like playing with mud almost, making mud pies. It was that stuff. It was creating something. It was great. I liked that. And then the nuns used to peel it off. You'd peel it off like Well, like a stamp off an envelope almost. That's how, and it was thick. But they used to get, in the summertime, they used to have to put, I don't know how they did it. They used to have to put handkerchiefs around. It was stiff. It would cut into their neck. And it was so stupid. Why they have to, I even used to say, why do they wear these dumb things? Then they wore all these petticoats and these big, heavy woolen things like gowns down to their feet and black stockings, black tie-up shoes, and they were sweltering. And even in the summer, the things that they wore weren't wool. They were cotton, but they wore like 3 layers. Oh, I don't know how they did it. And then the damn thing, sometimes in the summer, the bird things would start to wilt. Then they'd have to go in and get another one. It was really dumb when you think of it. Why they did that? Isn't that stupid? Whoever invented it, I used to wonder. Who invented this kind of an outfit? Some dumbass that thought it was, I don't know, an angel. They thought they were being an angel. We're supposed to look like an angel. They look like a horse's ass. Especially on a hot day. Oh, the poor things. And they'd be out there, and they had to stay out there. They had what we called the woods. And now when I looked at it, when we went back when we were grown, we called it the woods. And it was like, I guess as big as out there. That's how big it was. But it had some trees. And in the winter, in the fall, when the leaves would come down, we used to get all the leaves and get in under the leaves and play in that. And we had good fun. There were a lot of good things. And we had a swing set, had 4 swings. And one time, we had this big wooden sliding board. It was a very high sliding board. And some fat big guy, they used to have guys that came there on the weekends to teach us to play tennis. They had a tennis court and different things, and they were like auxiliary, they were called. They were volunteers, young men, and some young women. Of course, a couple of those married too. It was like a club, and but this one guy, this fat guy, went down the sliding board and he broke it. It was hilly. It had hills in it, and he got halfway down, and it was wood. And the wood broke. And he got down safe, but then they left it that way, and it was halfway down, it was wood, and then the rest of the way, it was slats to the bottom. Well, of course, I went down it the halfway. We all did. And I went through, and I got my arm, I have 20-some stitches on my arm from it. I held on, my arm caught on one of the nails on the slat. And of course, and I remember the kids got the piece of skin that was on the nail and they buried it. I was taken to the hospital and I got all those stitches. I was a hero that day.
Who buried the skin?
The kids, yeah, I don't know who. One of my sisters, I'm sure, and a whole bunch of them. They buried it. So, and I don't remember ever feeling any pain or anything from it. I don't think it hurt that much. I guess I was in shock. And I guess they gave me something at the hospital, but then I had to go around with that thing on my arm for a while. And I have a big scar there. It's like a W. Isn't that funny?
Did you have any other injuries when you were there?
No, not that I can remember. No, I didn't. I don't think any of us did. I'm trying to remember if any, except Mary with the appendix. No.
Did you ever have dances?
No, we never had. The only relationships we had with boys was the older boys. The older boys used to come and say mass, and a couple of them were really cute, and a couple of them weren't. But all the girls in the home were in love with the older boys. Well, I forget their names. Patsy might remember. One was a cute blonde boy, and she really loved him. Scott, I think. Oh, I forget. But anyway, there were a couple, and I was in love with one dark one. I forget their names now. We used to see boys, too, we had Orphans Day, Orphans Outing, they called it. I don't know if Kay told you about that. Didn't she? Orphans Outing. Well, one day a year, Woodside Park would invite all the orphanages in the area, all from Philadelphia and the suburbs. Media would go, and we'd all go, and the park was free for the day. Even Bob said he heard about it, and he wasn't in the home, but he used to go out there. He'd get out there somehow, and they would get a tag. They had a tag. You'd get on all the amusements free. They gave us lunches, and we all say this: no throwing the banana peels on the floor, throw them in the basket, because we had bananas, and we weren't used to getting fruit like that. Once in a while, we'd get an apple. But it got on Woodside Day. Oh, that was the best day. We all looked forward to it all year. It was in the spring. And
Who would pay for that?
Woodside Park. It was like a charity they did. And boy, that was fun though. And we get popcorn and cotton candy and everything all day. Well, we get sick half the time because we ate so much we weren't used to. And that was so much fun. But we always used to go in the call the Hummer. Everybody loved the Hummer. It was a real fast ride like they have today, only in those days it was one of the beginning of the fast on the hills, really fast. And I fell in love there with a boy from another home. Oh, he was so handsome. He was an Italian boy. He was beautiful. And then he wrote me a letter. And of course the nuns got it, and I got in all kinds of trouble. I forget what happened. I wasn't allowed to go to the movies or something. Oh, that was another thing. If we did something wrong, we weren't allowed to go to the movies. Walton used to call it, that was a theater on Chelton Avenue too. You tired, Kathy? Oh. And
No, it's okay. I'm just checking the light, that's all.
Okay.
Let me ask Alice a question
Go
next.
ahead. And then when Walton Theater, oh, sorry, sure,
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Walton Theater.
yeah. They were on Chelton Avenue. Is it okay now? Oh. And they used to call up once in a while if they didn't have a full theater, especially in the summertime, and they would invite us all, the nuns, to take us to the movies. Of course, that's where my love of movies started. I think really my love of movies started, though, with my father. He used to take us on Sunday. Sometimes he'd take us to 2 movies in one day. Boy, that was a big treat. He'd take us to a movie, and then he'd take us to Linton's for dinner, and then we'd go to another movie. Oh, that was great. But anyway, Walton used to call, and we would all go, and we have to walk in line to the movies. And it was not that long a walk, maybe 10 blocks away. It wasn't a real short walk, and we'd all go to the movies. And if we did something wrong, see, that was one of the things, punishments, we wouldn't get to go. They'd keep a list, and you wouldn't get to go. Oh, I have to tell you this story before I forget. Then I'll tell about it. This one time, this was my senior prom. We got to go to the senior prom, and I didn't want to even go because they arranged the dates, the nuns. And I went with this goopy guy that I didn't like, but I met, I don't know who he was with, this other guy. I think he was with Winnie McCormick. There were only 3 of us went, and the nuns arranged it. You know, we went to Little Flower's prom, senior prom. And it was very good of them to do it. We got gowns and everything. They dressed, you know, they did sweet things. They really tried. Anyway, they got us, and we didn't appreciate it. We didn't know any better. But they did that, and they got relatives of people who worked in the home to take us. And one was a relative, the one that was with Winnie, he was a relative of Maggie Brown. Now, Maggie Brown was the one who worked in the laundry. And he was her great-nephew or some dumb thing, but he was really cute. And we all went, and there wasn't enough room. I think one of them had a car, or I don't know how it worked, but we were all sitting in the back, the 6 of us. And we had to sit on the guys' laps. And then they took us home. We got home regular time and all. I think we were late and we snuck in, or forget. But anyway, I wrote to Aunt Kitty. And I told her all about it and sitting on the guys' laps and how much fun. Didn't the letter come back? And they read our mail. Sister Carmelite read it, or whoever it was, Sister Carmelite. She was the head nun there, and I loved her. She was the best of them all. But anyway, she was gone by then.